Hi folks, Gabe here with Backwoods Pursuit, and today we're going to take a look at the Maven RF1 laser rangefinder. This is Maven's flagship rangefinder, and I have been out testing it for nearly 2 years now. I've had it in a wide range of situations and temperatures out in the field. I want to bring you the results of how it performed, how it compares optically to some of the best rangefinders on the market, some of its limitations, and some of the things I liked and didn't like about the Maven RF1. Put a link to this down in the description so you can check it out for yourself, as well as a link to our website, backwoodsPursuit.com. Tons of gear reviews over there. Go check those out. Let's get started. First, let's go over some of the specs and features before we get into performance details. You have a 7x25 here, so a magnification of 7, and an objective size of 25 millimeters. 7 is a little bit higher than typical. A lot of your rangefinders are going to be in that 5 and 6 range, 6 being probably the industry standard, so you have a little bit more magnification with this, which is nice depending on what you're doing with it. In real tight situations, 7x can be a little high, but I've found it to work real well, even at that 7x in archery situations and up-close situations. So I found that I really liked that 7x. Now, a couple other features here. The eye cup here is unique in that a lot of your rangefinders just have a rubberized eye cup here that has no real adjustment to it, but the Maven RF1 has a click stops, much like most of your binoculars. So all the way out is your first position, and then second, third, and fourth position. So lots of adjustability there and gives you a lot of good eye relief. You also have your adjustment for the reticle focus here, the ring right behind that eye cup. Real easy to adjust, but plenty of resistance in that adjustment, so it's not going to move accidentally on you. Now, another unique thing about the Maven RF1 is this knob on the side. Most rangefinders don't have that, and if you've looked at it at all online, you probably noticed that's a little bit different. So it serves a couple of purposes for this rangefinder. Because the Maven RF1 does not have a built-in automatic display brightness adjustment, you have to change that manually. And to do that, most of the time in rangefinders, it's a little bit cumbersome, but this makes it really, really easy. So you press the button, the fire button on top, and that's going to power the unit on. And then you can change that brightness really easily using that knob on the side. The other functionality that this does is it allows you to navigate through the menu very quickly and very easily. Just push the menu button on the side and you'll navigate through and then make your selection really quick, really easy. So it serves its purpose really, really well. The other functionality here is you have a forest and a field mode. So if you need to be ranging in brush, you're going to use that forest mode. Make sure it's going to grab the range through the branches, through the trees, whereas in the field mode, it's going to acquire that target, the closest target that it hits, and return that range for you. So all of your menu adjustments are really, really easy with the Maven RF1. Now, as far as weight, on my scale, this came in at 9.9 ounces without the strap. Throw the strap on here, it comes in right at 10 ounces. So it is a little bit on the heavier side for a rangefinder. Some of the ones I've tested out there are 4 or 5 ounces. But they don't have nearly the optical quality that this one does. So you do have a little bit of a weight penalty for those optics, but that is to be expected. Now, size-wise, it is also a little bit bigger than some of the other ones I've used out there. It's definitely on the larger side. I would put it similar to that Vortex Razor HD. That's going to be in that similar size range, with the one difference being that knob. And because of that, you do need to have a larger rangefinder pouch. The one that I use is the Marsupial larger pouch. Works really well with that. If you don't, that knob's going to get caught on the pouch and it's going to cause some troubles and some issues with you. It's going to want to turn on you all the time, or just get caught on your pouch there when you're trying to pull it in and out. So thankfully, the knob does not do anything to the unit or to any settings unless the unit is powered on, so you don't have to worry about that. But it can just be an annoyance pulling it in and out of your pouch if you don't have the right size pouch. So you will need to make sure you get a larger size pouch with the Maven RF1. Now, with the specs out of the way, let's go over how the Maven RF1 performed over the last couple of years of testing. First up, optically. This thing is absolutely incredible as far as optics go. I put it next to the Leica3500.com, and that unit is phenomenal in its optics, and this held its own right there with it. It is every bit as good as that Leica. I was shocked to find that out when I put this next to it, but there was no denying it was just that good, and I was absolutely impressed with the optics. The wide field of view, very forgiving eye box with this. It's something you don't always get with a rangefinder, but this did an absolutely phenomenal job in both of those areas. That 7X, it didn't bother me at all. I was a little concerned about it at first, but did great on archery hunting, all the way to rifle hunting when you're doing a lot longer ranges. I really liked the 7X, especially given the wider field of view that this has than a lot of your rangefinders out there. It did really, really well. Some of the limitations that this has: it does not have any ballistics integrated. So if that's something you're looking for, this is not going to be the type of rangefinder you're going to be looking for. You're going to have to do anything ballistically outside of the rangefinder, which is not a big deal, but it does have, of course, angle compensation or line of sight modes, yards and meters, display brightness, all of your standard rangefinder options here, and then the field and forest modes. So it gives you everything you need, but nothing that you really don't, and not everyone wants those ballistics built into the rangefinder. So that's one limitation it has. As far as yardage, I played around with this in a lot of different situations. Really cold temperatures up to normal temperatures, bright sunny days, early in the morning where the sun's not yet up. And what I found is that at times the absolute max that I could get out of this was about 2,000 yards. And that's with really good viewing conditions. Now, if we turned into real bright sunny conditions and real cold out there, the effective range, the reliable range that I could get was about 1,400 yards all the time. Now, most of the time I could get 1,800 or 1,900, but in some of those more difficult viewing conditions, 1,200 to 1,400 was about where it would start to be a little more inconsistent beyond that. So obviously that's plenty for just about every situation you're going to need, even in a rifle hunting situation, but it does have those limitations. It doesn't have that gigantic range that some of the rangefinders out there have, but it gives you everything you need for just about every hunting situation you might be in. Now, a few more operational notes is that you can audibly hear that fire button when you're clicking that, so you know the unit fired, so which is really, really nice when it's cold outside and you have gloves on. If that button is a little bit mushy, then sometimes you don't know if it fired or not, but with that click on there, you can really hear that. And it's really nice to know when you exactly are pushing that fire button and you're going to return a range, or it's supposed to return a range. Also, I did note that because that knob on the side there is what controls the brightness, if you need to make that change, it can turn into a two-handed situation where you have to use both hands. Of course, that's not always the case, and if you leave it in that 2 or 3 brightness, you're going to cover most of your situations. But in the event that you do need to make that change, it's very quick and easy, but you do need a second hand there to do so. Same with that field and forest mode. You can make that toggle, switch that toggle really, really easily, but it does take a second hand there. Otherwise, menu navigation, fantastic and easy. One of the easiest, if not the easiest, menu navigations of all the rangefinders I've tested. Now, I also noted when using this in scan mode, and that's just gotten to by pressing and holding down the fire button like most rangefinders, it does really well and scans very, very quickly out to about 1,000 yards. Once you get beyond that, the scanning becomes a little bit slower, and you can maybe get 1 or so scan per second. Whereas inside of that range of 300, 400, 500 yards, you're going to get 2 or 3 ranges per second. So it's not quite as fast at those longer distances as some of the others out there. Again, not a huge detriment to it, but performance on the ranging side starts to degrade just a little bit past that 1,000-yard mark. And you can notice in how fast it returns that scan, particularly once you get over that 1,600-yard range. It's going to take half a second or so for it to return a yardage, and sometimes you get close to that 2,000-yard mark where I hit about my max with this. It took a full second to return that at times. So you do have a little bit slower range that's going to spit out back at you when you get out at the upper end of what it's going to be able to do. Another interesting thing that I found on the focus mechanism of the RF1 is the detents in the focus ring. So you can know exactly how far you're moving that. You can feel that without guessing. So it is nice when you're making those adjustments so you don't over adjust or under adjust. You can feel those detents in making that adjustment. It really does work nicely, and not a lot of rangefinders out there have that. Now, to wrap up the things I liked and didn't like about the Maven RF1. The primary thing that I would change personally is the size and the weight. It's a little bit heavy and a little bit bulky compared to a lot of your rangefinder options out there. Requires the use of a larger rangefinder pouch, and at 10 ounces, it's a little on the heavy side. Not overly egregious on the weight, but it is a little bit heavier than a lot of what you can get out there. Same along those lines is this knob on the side does add a little bit to that bulk, and again, it requires the use of that larger rangefinder pouch. Ideally, if I was to have a preference here, I'd probably get rid of the knob and then go to an automatic brightness adjustment in the display. And if you had that, the knob here wouldn't be as critical. You would get some of the menu adjustment functionality that would go away with that, but that would be a sacrifice that I personally would make with that automatic brightness adjustment. Other than that, I loved everything about this. The nice positive click with the fire button. I loved the way that you have a bunch of 4 options here in the eye cup. You don't always get that with rangefinders. I did end up loving that 7x magnification as well. I wasn't sure at first, but with the combination of the optics here and the wide field of view, it didn't bother me at all, and it didn't create that narrow field of view that I was a little bit concerned about. The optics are absolutely phenomenal. It's right on par with the Leica 3500, and it was every bit as good as that. I was shocked when I put them side by side just how good this unit is optically. Now, one thing that I would love to see is an option for integrated ballistic solution for the folks that like to have that in their rangefinder unit. Now, I'm one of those people. I do like to have built-in ballistic solution, but I know not everybody does, and I understand why they didn't, because that does add a lot of cost to a unit. But that is something I would love to see. So overall, this is a super impressive unit. If you don't mind a little bit extra size, a little bit extra weight, this is as good as anything that I have personally tested out on the market. Put a link to this down in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Thanks for watching here today, and drop any questions for us. Love to help you out if we can. We'll see you next time.